Hi, everyone watching this. My name's Arjun. I'm the head of research at InvestorKit, and I wanted to record another video just to get a good insight into one of our clients and good friend of mine's, Hayder's journey, and go through more about, I guess, why he wanted to start getting into investing, his journey with us as our client, and what's next. His story is very inspirational. The journey, his career, and his journey in there has also been very inspirational. So without further ado, Hayder, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Great to be here, Arjun. Thanks for having me on.
No, look, appreciate it, mate. And likewise from you. I know your journey before property, from former Olympian. And I wouldn't let this one go, right? Former Olympian to
Former
lawyer.
Olympian. Once an Olympian, always an Olympian. That's what they
Sorry,
say.
mate. Sorry, mate. Let me
I'm joking.
Olympian to lawyer to practice owner, and now multi-practice owner as well, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, that's right.
mate, thank you for coming on. I guess I'd love to learn more about that journey and how that's transitioned from then to now being an avid property investor as well.
Yeah, look, Arj, I've always been interested in property. I've been looking around the market. I spent a lot of time looking around the market when I had some time. Back in my sporting days, I really did not have the opportunity or really the funds to even get close to even thinking about purchasing a property. So it was not in my mind. And, I had my sporting career throughout from my whole life. I started when I was 7 and finished when I was 27. So I did it for about 20 years. And it wasn't something that I was focused on, because when you're doing sport, that's all you're thinking about is just tunnel vision doing that. But then once I had started my legal practice and was working and, I'd started to accumulate some funds and, I thought, look, it's a good time to start looking around. I did, I started looking around. I was reading different articles and checked, looked online and tried to get some kind of inspiration as to where to go, what to do. I attended a few open homes and I was thinking, I've got to do something, because that's what every single person in Australia is trying to do. It's the ultimate goal, try and purchase your property and, hope it goes up. So I spent a bit of time doing that. Obviously, I've got my own business and practice that I also have to attend to, clients, employees, all of that kind of stuff. So it was difficult to kind of get out and, see all the places that I want to see. On top of that, I was also doing a bit of coaching and training. So I would try and squeeze that in on the weekend as well. And that made it impossible basically to even go and view a house, right? So, I thought, look, I need help. I need someone that can help me out here. And I came across you guys through a very nice recommendation. As soon as I had that initial chat and consultation with you, I was like, oh my God. I had the biggest smile on my face and I just felt completely secure with what I was doing. And I had so much confidence in my choice. And I was just already, after the first conversation, I was like, shut up and take my money. Let's go, And I really, really felt like it wasn't just a position where I needed to find someone because I didn't have the time, or it wasn't just a delegating thing anymore. It was wow, I can't believe I tried to do this on my own. All the questions and doubts that I had in my head, Arjun literally just answered and made them very clear. And he not just answered them, but he supported his answers with facts, stats, historical data, current market trends, everything. So it wasn't just an answer. Hey, Arj, what do you think about this area? He said, oh, they're building a school or something, but it's not that great. I don't really like it. It's not like a simple kind of answer like that. It would be, Hayder, let's go back. Let's look into the data. Let's go deep. Just bang, fact. And I was just like, wow, like this is not it's not a model where we're looking into a crystal ball and we're hoping here that, we're going to purchase the right property in the right area. It is absolutely not that. It's in fact the opposite. And that is pure data, pure statistics, looking at everything possible to kind of put us in the optimum position to really benefit from putting this money and hard work on the line.
Well, for anyone during this phase who heard Hayder say, sporting a couple of times to give it away, it was an Olympian in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
And I understand why you weren't thinking of a house at that time, because you probably could have just beaten up anyone to get their house if you wanted to. But I'm glad that you're not doing that and you're doing it the right way, my friend.
Yeah.
But look, that gives some context as to someone who's obviously started the investing journey on your own, and you'd given it a crack, and then you've kind of taken a moment to step back to say, hey, why didn't I consider this earlier? And I guess on that note, it also wasn't normal times. When you started expanding this portfolio further, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and in the middle of a pandemic, everyone's wondering, what's going to happen. What made you feel confident to go, well, rather than keep these cash away for my business or other things, I'm just going to continue investing? What was going through your mind at that time?
Look, without a doubt, you're right. And that is what I was referring to earlier about those doubts and, just having questions about, is this the right time? Is this the right place? Is this the right, property? Is this, every single thing you're thinking about constantly, right? And like I said, a lot of doubts, and doubts lead to you not making any progress, because it leads to inaction. It leads to, over-analysis leads to paralysis. That's one saying that I feel like applies to a lot of people, that when it comes to investing in some kind of level, they may over-analyze something and feel like, I don't even know where to start, because, there's so many questions. So yes, I still had all of those things, and yeah, I was concerned. Look, there's COVID, and what's going to happen, property prices and interest rates and all of that. But again, that's why I felt like InvestorKit was the perfect fit, because it wasn't a simple delegation task. It was, this is why we are doing it. And you walked me through every single step to make sure I understood the whole process, and that I would feel comfortable in putting my money into the property market.
And we went on to purchase 2 properties together. And,
I'll add to that. It wasn't 2 properties. It was, we did one. And then as soon as I went through that experience, I said, like straight away, let's do another one. It wasn't spread out. It was back to back.
Yeah, definitely. And it almost feels like every time we're chatting about the next one or the next one anyway. So, but with those 2 that you purchased, we went into two different markets and diversified your holdings from Sydney, and we went over to Brisbane and Adelaide.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure these markets aren't new to you, but what made them come up and feel comfortable to invest in this time around for you versus in the past where you perhaps haven't considered them? What was the core differences that you felt this time around? Again,
it was the data, and having that broken down and explained to me. Looking at, I don't really want to go into too much technical detail because that's your job, but looking at every single data point and understanding why certain areas of certain cities will perform well in the future, and having the confidence that, the data speaks for itself. Once you see that, and once it gets broken down and explained to you, the property investing journey no longer becomes a let's buy and hope. That's completely removed, and that's what InvestorKit takes out of the picture. InvestorKit is about, it becomes a science in a way. Investing becomes a science. It becomes very data-driven and analytical. So whether it's in Brisbane, whether it's in Adelaide, whether it's in Timbuktu, it doesn't matter, as long as the numbers stack up, and you're going to get that growth that you want. You're going to get the numbers you want. It really does not matter. And that's what really, really drove home. And that's what InvestorKit really kind of drilled into my brain. And now wherever I go, I'm just, advocating for that. I'm just like, guys, like, look at the numbers. If you look at the stats, if you look, it's not about, they're upgrading the road next to my, my neighbor's house over here, and that's why this area is going to do good. It's not about speculation. It's not about, oh, this is what I think, or this is what I heard, or rumors around, or, the barbecue, just chatting. It is really about the data, and that's what makes me feel secure.
Well, one thing I can say that I definitely agree with you on is you don't just say that, you lived it, because these two properties, they don't look anything like each other. They're not the same materials of build. One was a lot nicer, one was not as nice in terms of the look and feel, yet they both produce the results that you're looking for. And
Yeah,
so,
different states, different.
yeah, I mean,
target market, that we're going after for the tenants. I mean,
yeah,
different size property, but the numbers are the numbers. And as an investor, isn't that what you want at the end of the day? Isn't, there's not one investor that's going to turn around and say it's not about the numbers.
Well, I mean, on that numbers piece, you purchased property one for 595K.
Yep.
And we recently had a bank valuation come up at just over 750K. And that was the Brisbane one. Then we had property two purchased at 710K.
Yep.
And we had a bank valuation come up at around 900K, 895 to be, exact. The power of your action, I mean, when you look at the compound calculators, we chuck on 5% per annum, put it over 30 years. But this is now just under 30% per annum for the last 1 year, across these two properties. And so the question I have here is that you see these two types of results.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, you're in business, and you're kind of seeing that level of equity growth doesn't come in other things that we do in life from just sitting there and doing nothing. We have to work for it, right?
Not at all. Yeah, definitely.
So when it comes to property investing, how has these results changed your mind on, I guess, the importance of property investing as part of a portfolio for people as well?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge, especially because when we did the purchases, basically they were quite close to one another. And now 1 year later, looking back, you just realize, wow, that's a year. Like, because property is, it's quite a passive kind of investment. You're not actively going around and attending to it all the time. For good property, you shouldn't be doing that. But so if you purchase the right property, you don't realize that 1 year has just passed. And I know it's going to be not long, and it's going to be 5 years, and all those gains are automatically accumulating in the background, which is extremely important. You need to ensure that you've diversified your finances in some kind of way. I'm a business owner. There's always that thought in the back of the owner's mind where you don't want to think about it, you don't want to consider it, but there is that element of I'm not in the most secure line of work where I might get sued one day. My business might fall over, something might happen. There's a whole range of things that could happen. So having that diversification, whether it be investments or business or multiple streams of income in some kind of way, it's extremely important. And it does give you that kind of security and that kind of that balance where not all your eggs are in one basket. And in this case, not in one city, not in one state, spreading it out. And that's really, really important.
Yeah, well, taking your portfolio to 3 states now, when you consider your holdings, and I guess when you take a step back, you've talked about your business and the risk that can come up and the importance of investing. But if you take a step back to even like just at the start of our relationship, like whether to work with us or not, in your field of work as a practice owner in the legal world, a lot of due diligence, a lot of crossing the T's, dotting the I's happen. And you would have caught up with them, I'm guessing, various buyer's agents or heard about buyer's agents. What made you feel that, hey, our service kind of stood out, or why did you choose us over other options?
Look, you're right. There are a lot of buyer's agents out there. They're becoming more and more popular. A lot of, some of my friends I know have been using different ones. For me, I could tell the difference when I was speaking to InvestorKit directly, and the fact that they had their own research department within InvestorKit, within the buyer's agency. That for me was just, it was like saying, you've got a gold mine inside of a factory. Okay. And it's like saying, which factory did you want to go to? Did you want to go to that factory or this factory or whatever? Where did you want to get it? And, some person would say, oh, well, there's a gold mine inside this factory. And I thought, well, there's a research department within a buyer's agency. That's nuts. That's the way I thought of it. And then you've got access to that data, and, you're constantly pushing it out, and there's research papers coming out, and all of that is linked to how you strategize your purchases. For me, that was game over after I heard that.
Well, man, another thing I noticed you did that was very important, in my opinion, on the journey was you didn't come in and say, I want to buy in this area. I want to buy in that area. I want to buy here. When you think of, being in a world that's so full of all this information and you get to liaise with, people from all walks who are building portfolios, or in some cases, perhaps, losing portfolios as well, right? And you see this stuff happen in your field. What made you feel like, hey, no, I'm going to step back and not tell them I want X location or Y location. I want them to kind of make the call and do that.
Well, I work in professional services industry like yourself, and I know what it's like when people come in and, they're coming to me, they're coming to my firm, and they're paying money to get advice. Okay. That's what we do. That's what we provide. We provide advice. As lawyers, we run cases, yes, but at the end of the day, our clients are our bosses. They tell us what to do. Okay. And it's similar to you. You're a buyer's agent. The client's the boss, he's the one, he or she's the one paying the money. And at the end of the day, you have to listen to what they do, what they want you to do. So I know the experience of what it's like when I know a client is paying me money, which, I take very responsive, with a huge amount of responsibility. And I feel like I need to do my absolute best for this person. And at the same time, this is something that I do every day as, someone working in the field. And it's something that they've never done before, or they might have very little experience with. So I know what it's like to have people pay for advice. And when you're paying for advice, then in my opinion, you take it, and you take it wholeheartedly. If you trust the person you're working with and you're paying them for advice, then that's what you're there to do, and understanding that is crucial when it comes to not just with your lawyers or with your buyer's agents or anything like that, but, with all streams, understanding when good advice is there is critical to, progressing in different fields, because at the end of the day, you're the expert. I'm not.
On that topic of advice, I think, look, I could be wrong here, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think on the properties we presented you, both were the first ones.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. In those areas.
That's an example of, because one thing we see quite often in the world of property is that, oh, it's the first one, so we'll just take a step back. And one thing I respectfully challenge to my clients is that, hey, the first one is no different than the 10th one, especially if we've bought 100 in the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
The due diligence process remains the same. So
yeah,
that was the same thinking process you had when it came to that advice piece, to go, well, it doesn't matter if it's the first or the second.
Oh, absolutely not. If it's been screened and it passes the checks, which, you guys explained to me, these are the things that we check for, and this is why, before we put something to you, it's not just, like I said, it's not a speculation. It's not on a whim. Every product that you've got to put forward, you're risking your reputation. You're putting your whole reputation with every single property that you put forward to your clients. If you get a bad outcome, that's your reputation, and thank God you managed to keep that intact, which is amazing. And, the fact that you've been able to keep that, all of the 5-star reviews that you guys have that I've seen online, it means that you've been presenting every property that you present, that somebody has to choose, has performed well. And that's why you've got that online reputation. And that's why I think it will just continue to grow.
And Mate, further on the reputation and part and coming back to the advice and the fees you mentioned in our businesses, buyer's agents aren't cheap. You know, you've worked with us 2 times now, so it's what, $30,000 in fees.
Yeah.
And I know from your ambitions, there's so many more purchases ahead you're planning out and thinking of. You know, what makes you sit back and go, hey, why the frick don't I do some course or sit back or spend all my time researching? No, I want to trust this team, trust this person, whether it's once a year, twice a year, like you did in the recent case, and the many more years and purchases ahead. 30 becomes 60, becomes 100K. I'm not saying anything, but you know, one day will become 100K. Woohoo! But when that when that time comes, I mean, just thinking of it now, looking ahead, looking back, what makes you feel that this is still the path that you continue on and it's been worth it from that perspective?
Because as a good investor would understand, if you put 100K on the line, that initial figure doesn't mean anything. You have to look at it in comparison to what your return is as well. Okay. And I could go and do those same things and, you know, try and reenact and try and go through, you know, I've been through the process with you. I actually learned a lot personally myself through that. And that's another great thing. It's almost, you're paying the money also for that educational aspect as well. So now I feel like I understand the property market a lot better as well. But one, is time an issue? I wouldn't put it as the highest kind of thing in terms of I would go again with InvestorKit because I need to delegate and I don't have the time. I wouldn't put it, that for me isn't the number one thing. It still comes down to the returns and what I feel like you guys would do a better job a better job with returns than I would if I do my own research and spend all the time with, you know, looking for the right property. And, you know, if it's the case, you know, we just went through the numbers before on those 2 initial properties.
Yeah.
And what was the last year growth? 25 to 30%, something like that?
Yeah, but close to 30% for both of them. And
Close
that's bank valuations, which are conservative. Yeah.
Close to 30% increase in the last 12 months on both properties. So it's not a fluke. It's not one property. You're talking 2 different ones. Both similar kind of increase in value that you were seeing. You know, the difference is, you know, maybe I did go purchase myself somewhere else, you know. The difference between a 30% increase in value and a 15 or 20% increase in value, even in the first year, that's where that 15K is made up. Okay, that's where the fee's made up and becomes insignificant at that point. So yes, you can be concerned about the fee and worry about that. And for some people, it would be a roadblock, and that's, you know, that's fine. There's a market for everyone. They might be able to find someone maybe a little bit cheaper, but at the end of the day, you got to go with someone you trust. The fee's there. Yep, you got to pay for it. That's part of life. You know, when you're getting a service, when you got to pay for someone's time, and you've got to look at that fee. And it can't be an isolated vision of what that fee is. It is what it will get you in that 1 year or 2 year, 5 year kind of period. And if it's going to make that up and more, then it's, in my opinion, definitely worth it.
No, thank you for sharing your thoughts there, mate. I guess there's a lot of people who might be tuning into this and go, well, I'm new to this. It's great. You know, it's awesome. You bought 2 properties really quickly and you've got others in your portfolio as well. And, you know, you're getting amongst it. But when maybe someone's just starting out and they're thinking of all the confusion that's out there, what sort of tips do you have or advice do you have for them?
Someone starting out, yeah, for me, it wasn't too long ago. So I remember the confusion and wanting to, you know, learn everything and understand what's going on. And I was afraid of making mistakes as well, which I think is also what comes with, you know, starting off in a field that you don't know much about. Tips for beginners, I would say this: property is a huge machine. It's absolutely enormous. Okay. And I think you need to kind of break down all of the prejudices that you might have, and everything that that you think about property when you're going in. The first thing that I would say is, don't be limited to looking in your own backyard. Okay, look outside, look into other cities, other states, other regional towns.
That's a big one, by the way. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
that's such a big one. Because I mean, if we just take the most recent purchase into account, the one in Adelaide,
Yeah.
Adelaide, as at May ending data and April ending data, was the top performing capital city.
Yeah.
Just close to what, 2%?
Yeah.
In that month.
Yeah.
So if you have a look at it, where we're both sitting in Sydney and we'd purchased in our backyard, Sydney declined in the month of May, month of April. So that backyard example rings home for sure.
Yeah. No, you don't need to look in your backyard. Okay. There's a budget and there's a property for everyone. Okay. There is a property for everyone. It doesn't matter what your budget is really, you'll be able to find something. And I would say you've got to focus on the numbers. Okay. So that's the main thing. Think about the numbers, think about what you're going to get out of it. Don't get emotionally driven, and look at the stats, look at the numbers, look at the data, look at InvestorKit. They've got a lot of free resources. So honestly, that is gold. So go through that, read the papers that they've published. They've got fantastic data in there. So that will really help you recondition your mind and understand what it's like to be looking for a property.
Now, awesome tip, my friend. The last thing I wanted to, just share, I guess, is more like a reflection on your journey, just from my opinion, actually, seeing what you've done. So the first thing I think of to any other business owners watching this is that you've really grasped the concept of creating a team around you. From the outside looking in, I also understand the importance of that as an investor myself. And you've kind of just made sure that, hey, whenever something comes up property, something comes up investing or current holdings, or just thoughts, I know from the conversations we have over the phone call, it's like the media, anyone could say anything to you. It just goes into one ear. And if there's some questions to come, you go back to me, you go, hey, Arjun, can you unpack this for me? Okay, great. So it's like having that one trusted source of truth, rather than having that paralysis analysis. You built your team. That's one thing I felt.
Team is so important. And like you said, with the media, they publish an article every day, and if you were to read every single one, you would drive yourself insane. I know we finished that segment about tips, but if I could add to that, if I could just add to that little part in terms of what the media produce and the articles that they release, a tip would be is to really try and disregard what is being put out there. And one thing I learned very quickly after speaking with InvestorKit was when the media talks about different stories in terms of, the market's going up, it's going crazy, or the market's crashing, it's all over, it's finished. Even that term, the market, how misleading is that? Just the market. What is that? The market. What is the market? What market are we talking about here? Like, okay, obviously the property market, but is it one market we're talking about, the property market? Like, it's just like, house prices are crashing. So the first thing that you learn in InvestorKit is there are tens of thousands of markets in Australia alone in terms of property that you can, purchase and acquire. Tens of thousands. So when you hear a headline about the market going up and market going down, it's such a generalized term that they'll just use some snippet of data, some stat that they'll use to create this story so that people can click on it. Okay. Really try and disregard it as much as possible. Just remember there are thousands of markets there. Okay. Different types of products, different locations. You can have a certain suburb in Sydney go up and a certain suburb go down, so to generalize and say the market's going up, the market's going down, you're not going to get anywhere by thinking about that. So it's the first thing that you learn at InvestorKit. They'll educate you straight away on that kind of stuff.
There's always something somewhere each year, growing, staying the same, or falling.
Yeah.
It's just where are you going to put yourself? You growing markets, falling markets. So that's the key thing, right? So such a true point. The last observation I made, looking at just, your journey as well, mate, is that you've never chased the deal. And that's a concept that's so powerful because one thing I often, when I speak to investors, is that what drives the result for you is the pressure that's being built in the market, competition, trends changing, macro factors in that area. These sorts of things mean there's a lot of people fighting over stuff, and fighting over stuff equals capital growth. Whereas many investors think of going with the buyer's agent and going, "Ooh, I'm working with the buyer's agent, I'm going to get this deal." If you think about it, none of our assets were crazy underpriced in comparison to comparables.
No.
Otherwise, my opinion of it, and we've done research on this, the areas with the highest vendor discounting, the year after, grow less than areas with less vendor discounting.
Yeah,
it's the nature of growth. It exists in competition. So how do you take yourself out of that whole, oh, I'm deal finding because I'm working with professionals, I'm looking at these great deals, versus, no, I'm on a journey of, working at the market and analyzing markets here?
Yeah, it's like I said, which numbers are you looking at and focusing on? That's what it comes down to. You can focus on certain data points and certain numbers, and that is the discount numbers. What am I getting a good deal here? Am I getting 10K off or 20K off or 100K less than the market? If you're focusing on those numbers, your focus is in the wrong place. I think, as you said, if you're getting a discount on a property, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
And it's because nobody else is looking for it, and the vendor's kind of desperate to get rid of it, right? And if you understand that, then you'll stop looking at those numbers, which is, can I get it under market rate? Can I get a discount on it? You don't want to focus on those numbers. You want to focus on the numbers that are going to lead to this line on the property value chart. Okay, you want to focus on those numbers, and once you're with InvestorKit, you'll know those numbers, and that's what you want to hear. Okay, you want to know, what are the vacancy rates in that area? What do you think I'm going to get for rent? What's the yield I'm looking at? Those are the numbers that you'll start focusing on. And when it comes to discounting, you'll realize very quickly that's not the game that we're in here for. Okay, we're not here to buy under. We're here to make money on the way up.
Yeah. Well, mate, it was very good catching up with you. From
Thanks, Aj.
Olympian to business owner to avid property investor, and mate, from Sydney to multiple states. You're planting your flag all across Australia.
Yes.
Thank you for your support to us, but also I'm sure people watching this will get a lot of value in terms of the importance of the research, the numbers, and really looking at investing as an investing journey, not so much an emotional transaction that goes into it. So
that's right. Absolutely. 100%. Thank you for everything, Adrian. I really appreciate InvestorKit and what they've done for me.
Cheers.